Sunday night sound session with John Moore and DJ Hyphen on KUBE 93.
Sunday night sound session, DJ Hyphen, J Moore, special guest in the building. Introduce yourself, man.
Yeah, Yelawolf, Catfish, Billy, aka Alabama, Jake the Alabama White Snake, Slick Ricky Bobby. Coming from Gadsden, Alabama, small town east of Birmingham, west of Atlanta. Shit, man, put out Trump music like a year ago now.
Yeah.
And started making traction. Got a situation with Interscope about 8 months ago now, I think. And I'm just out here working, man.
Things
Stopping
are going
in Seattle on this Waken Baken Tour with Wiz Khalifa.
No doubt. Shout out to Wiz and Taylor Gang, of course. Is this your first time in Seattle?
No, actually I was in Seattle in 2000, like homeless.
Okay, well, we got to talk about that. How we go from 2000 homeless to 2010 Interscope rising superstar.
Well,
that's quite a 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, shit, man. I was out here trying to get on a boat in Alaska.
Okay.
Sorry for cussing.
Oh, we'll take that up with Clear Channel. We'll be good.
All right, my bad. Anyway, yeah, I was out here with myself, man. I took a Greyhound bus with me and my boy, and came to Seattle to try to get on a boat, and was just on the streets for like a couple weeks out here, you know, in the winter. It was hardcore.
Yeah, and the plan was to get on a boat to go up to Alaska and make some money with the fishing industry up there.
Yeah, exactly. And ended up making it on a boat, but like a straight up Bad News Bears boat, like graffitied up, dents, rusted. We actually built the factory on the way out to sea.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a real crazy story, man. But I survived a season out in the Bering. So.
Wow. So 10 years ago, so you were a young kid at that point.
Yeah, man. I mean, you know, I just went. Well, I left home when I was 15, you know, and I left as a skateboarder. I left, you know. So yeah, I was young for sure.
Yeah. When you look back on those days compared to now, like, what's the biggest thing you kind of remember about just the feeling and the vibe of those days?
I was just crazy. I was out of my mind younger. You know, I lived a real rock star life, for real, before music, you know. Lots and lots of drugs, lots and lots of girls, just, you know, living, you know, on couches and just like straight rebellion, you know. Skateboarder, left home when I was 15, like hustling or working 9 to 5s here and there just to get money to get by.
What was the worst 9 to 5?
Worst 9 to 5 was probably the 100 Wing Cafe that I worked in the kitchen.
What city?
It was horrible. Marietta.
Okay.
And I had just like trying to come down off this peyote trip, and so I was sleeping at my friend's mom, my homeboy's mom's house, on their couch, and you know, I was having crazy experiences trying to come off this trip and working at this and I was working at this 100 Wing Cafe spot, and basically, you know, there was 100 different flavor wings, right? So you could come in there and people would actually order 5 of every each 100.
Yeah.
For like a table of 100.
And that had to be mind-blowing for someone coming off a trip to try to keep organized.
Listen, man, trying to wash those dishes, if you could imagine, you know, we were dipping 100 buckets of sauce in the kitchen, you know what I'm saying? So it was just nasty, man. I remember we used to close at like 11:30, and I wouldn't be done washing dishes till like 4 in the morning. Washing dishes for like 5 hours. I hated that job.
This might be the craziest backstory I've heard for an artist. We have a lot of artists come through that, you know, usually tell us a fairly similar story about grinding for a bit.
Dude, you have not. I've laid brick, like, you know, dug ditches and mixed mortar and done metal roofing and, you know, the fishing. Worked at CC's Pizza when I was a little kid. Worked, oh man, just anything I could get my hands on at the time, you know.
Yeah,
I would just go out and get it.
was music a constant throughout that on the side, or was it something that clicked later on where you're like, yo, I'm not really satisfied with where this is going, kind of switching from 9 to 5 to 9 to 5. I gotta do something that I really want to put my heart into.
Yeah, I really wasn't, I didn't get life, period. You know, I didn't understand, you know, what it is I was supposed to be doing up until later, you know, because it, you know, I was, as a skateboarder, I was just rapping as a hobby, you know, but my homies would tell me that I was good at it, you know. But I remember being in Berkeley, California, and eating at Food Not Bombs with all my skateboard friends, you know, which is like this program where they feed homeless people, you know, and we would go out there like dirt bags. Even though we might have $5 in our pocket, we would still go stand in line to get that bowl of soup, because we were just like that, you know, just rats, you know, just skate rats, you know, living like that. And I remember just being out there at that park, man, and just standing up and literally telling my friends I was done with this. I'm done, you know. I'm gonna go try to be a rapper.
What did they say to that?
I mean, it's just crazy because it's not like being a rapper is any easier, you know, especially with my story and who I am. It was just not like I made a decision to do something easier. It was just a change of heart, man. I kept getting wrecked on my skateboard. My ankles were all tore up, you know. And while I was in Berkeley, I went out to Oakland because I had another job where I was handing out promotions and stuff. One of my skateboard friends like, yo, we can make some money if we hand out stuff. So we're handing out like goodies out to you know, just random people. And this is another horrible situation I got put in. If you could imagine, Pepto-Bismol was one of our promotional products. So, yeah, Gay Fest in Seattle, handing out Pepto-Bismol.
That's a first. That's a first on this show. Officially right there, a sound session first.
Yeah.
Lick shots to that.
Yeah. So, man, you know, humiliated. But, I mean, just...
You're like, I gotta get in the studio.
Man, just, you know, like, this can't be life. This can't be life. It paid $15 an hour, though. It's pretty good.
That's not bad. Especially even in 2010 or 2011.
Yeah, man,
that's not bad.
Making good bank, you know.
Yeah. So at what point did you actually manage to get in the studio? And was there perhaps someone that either helped you get in the studio for the first time or maybe gave you a co-sign for the first time?
I gotta finish up that story. Well, the thing is, when I was out there handing out that, you know, blessing in disguise, this dude walked by, you know, rapping to himself or whatever, just struck up conversation. He said, yeah, there's a festival up the street, and it was a Def Jam show that was going on. So I went up, walked by a bus, you know, just, I've always been a hustler like that, you know. I would go up and talk to people and, you know, just let them know what I was doing. And just by conversation, I didn't even rap for the dude, but the dude standing next to the Def Jam bus, I guess he just saw that I was serious and I wanted an opportunity. He took me out to the Grill recording studios with Lev and Will Hawkins out in Oakland, you know, and I would go out there and start messing around in the studio, and that was my first taste.
And what year was this?
You know, that was 99.
Oh,
yeah,
a minute ago.
Yeah, 99, and but seriously, just getting my feet wet, seeing what it was like, you know, in the studio, and so it was really 07 where everything started to click, character-wise, you know what I'm saying, understanding how to tell my story, you know, because I had come up just writing rhymes, period, you know, but not really carrying a culture.
Was it kind of like just typical, you know, schoolyard battle kind of?
Yeah, not even really battle, but just metaphors and, you know, just influence, you know, being influenced from Outkast to Hieroglyphics to Wu-Tang, you know, just some spiritual, you know.
But being kind of interesting because, like, if you're kicking that kind of stuff with the life at that point, like you're a young kid, a lot of the stuff they're obviously talking about is some fairly deep, you know, metaphysical, spiritual stuff that you probably take years to learn. Could you imagine?
All right, check it out. This is paradox for you. Being in Southside Alabama in the country, dog, in the woods, basically, at my grandmama's house, listening to Poor Righteous Teachers. Yeah, man. I don't know, man. I've always been, you know, just extreme with it. I wanted to know all there was to know about it, you know. Yeah. Kicking in high school, like the last doing a verse over a Crooklyn Dodgers beat for a school full of country white boys, you know. You know, it's just insane. You know, just.
And they just had no idea.
They had no clue, not at all. You know. And neither did I, really. You know what I'm saying? But I was going for it.
Yeah, at least you were like progressive moving forward.
Yeah, I was just going for it, period. Couldn't tell me nothing back then.
Yeah, figure out where you end up later on.
Yeah.
Basically.
I mean, I moved into a trailer park in Huntsville, Alabama. And that was after I moved out of the street called South 11th Street in Gadsden, Alabama, which is a notorious street out in Gadsden. And when I moved into that trailer park, man, I just realized what value I had, what my story was for real, you know, and the value of it, and the truth and honesty of that life. These dudes riding by, and he's like a Thunderbird with a mullet, but he's playing UGK, you know. That paradox, I started to understand how to explain that to people and be the voice of that, because I know it well, you know. I can go to the hood, I can go over to Shawty Fat's hood and kick it. I can go to the projects and kick it in Gadsden. And I can go to the trailer park and kick it. I can go in the woods and kick it with some rednecks. That's where I live, and that's my reality. So that's the reality that I started putting on record. And when I started doing that is when everything changed.
Yeah.
Sunday night sound session with John Moore and DJ Hyphen on KUBE 93.